you think back when you were first starting out, what is the main question that you might have? For me, it was, what am I going to do after college? What am I going to do for money? What am I going to do for my career? And I literally tried everything, right? I originally started as a civil engineer, and I hated it. I did it because it was to appease my mom and dad, right? And in rebellion, I went to go intern with the CEO and found out I didn't want to be a CEO of a public company. I tried penny stocks and trading currency, and I realized sitting in front of a computer, just clicking buttons, trying to make money that way wasn't very fun. I'm a more, I like to engage with people. I got my loan officer license and real estate license, and I got to lend out mortgages. And I try to sell homes, and that was like creating your own job, right? And it wasn't very fun, for me at least. And the point is, I even worked at an Audi dealership, just trying to make ends meet, and I just didn't know where to go. And the point of the whole gateway job concept, and why I interviewed multiple people from sales, marketing, finance, HR, IT, operations, IT, legal, development, product management, is in order to create a new role model, you need to first understand who do you want to become, and then learn from them how do you role model their success. And that is the genesis of the first half of the book, is first reading these success stories of people who went from college dropout, or not sure what they wanted to do, or they wanted to pivot from being an attorney to now working in corporate legal, right? There's many examples of this. And the first key thing here is the understanding of who do you want to become, and how do you get there, and why? More importantly, why? And that is the framework, which is find out which gateway do you want to be a part of, and how do you ultimately go there? Right? How do you take the steps into actually going there? And you can do this by reading other people's stories and their advice. And that can get you to the first step into your first crypto tech company, or your first tech company, or your first video game company, or whatever industry, really. Because every company needs legal, finance, HR, sales, customer support. Like, all these gateways are actually transferable, for the exception of the developer gateway and the product management gateway, which is usually primarily focused at tech. But I digress, right? Step one, find out who you want to become and where do you want to start. And understand that it isn't a end-all be-all. It's really a stepping stone. And I've seen people go from starting out in the sales gateway, and then they pivot into account management or renewals, or they go into marketing, or they go into development, or they go into customer support. It really just varies, right? And it's vice versa. You can go, other gateways go into these. The point is, you get in the game, you start making steps towards your goals. The second concept is the how. How do you actually execute? So what I've done in this section of the book is take a lot of the things I've learned as a sales rep. So a little bit of myself, I became a enterprise software rep, where I cold call and break into big tech companies to sell them software security products, services really, SaaS, software as a service. And I've taken a lot of that approach on how to sell, because essentially you're selling yourself. You're selling you as a vehicle, as a business to a company, and how to revamp your resume. How do you find the right decision makers? How do you get referred in, or even just the concept of referrals, right? I'm not sure if you know this, but there's a huge referral system in the technology community where people get paid to refer you in. So how do you leverage that to your advantage? How do you reach out and ask for coffee meetings to learn more about these gateways and how to break in? And then how do you execute on it? How do you position yourself for the interview? How do you create a more desirable outcome of how do you become more desirable? And I teach you all these little secrets on how to do that. And that's essentially the framework. It's a 10-step process. After you figure out where you go, it's 10 steps on how to actually execute from blank resume to landing your first offer and negotiating, hopefully, a multiple offer scenario. And you have to put your mindset as a sales rep in some ways, where you just have to kind of be a detective and figure out how do you email the right people? How do you go around the the recruiter or the gatekeeper, I should say. And there's multiple ways, right? So let me teach you a few things, right? So there's story of Shane, brute force Shane, where he moved in from Austin out here to San Francisco, and he applied for every single sales development gateway job. And to my surprise, by just applying to over 100 different interviews, he was trailing like 2 to 3 phone interviews per day. So there's the way of the brute force, where sometimes it's just, you just got to take shots, right? Take shots. But I like to be a little bit more strategic. I also teach on the power of referrals, right? Finding peers and mapping out in an account, who are your peers? How do you find their email addresses? And how do you write a compelling email to potentially get referred in, or just get coffee so you can understand what are they looking for and how do you put your best foot forward, or what skills do you need to level up in the meantime, right? So that's another strategy. Another aspect is actually emailing the hiring manager directly with a compelling offer, saying, hey, you're hiring for this gateway job, and here's why we need to talk, and make it really compelling and just going directly to the person who's making a decision. And there's stories on how this girl, Kristen, moved in, who I initially, when I was a hiring manager, I initially did not accept her initial interview or her resume, but she reached out to my boss, and he was like, check her out. And we ultimately ended up hiring her because she actually was much better in person than she was on her resume. So I mean, I give you multiple, these different aspects, but it's ultimately the strategy. How to best break into any industry, and this is the stuff that we weren't taught in school. And I'm excited to at least share that with you, and the actual strategy side after you figure out how to break in, or actually which gateway you want to break in. So